My name is Emma Miller, and I own a chain of bakeries that I built from nothing. I'm 36 years old now, and I've been baking since I was a teenager. My parents, Tom and Sarah, are both retired now. They had me when they were in their 30s, and then my sister Alexis came along when I was 10 years old. Our family was never rich, but we got by. When I finished high school, I wanted to go to college, but we couldn't afford it. So, I started working at a local bakery instead. The owner, Mrs. Jenkins, taught me everything about making bread and pastries. When she retired 5 years later, she offered to sell me the business. I took out a loan and became the owner of my first bakery. It wasn't easy at first. I worked 16-hour days, waking up at 3 a.m. to start the dough and staying until after closing to clean up. My hands were always red and raw from working with the hot water and flour. I didn't bother with manicures or fancy nail polish. What was the point? They'd just get ruined the next day. I also cut my hair short so it wouldn't fall into the dough, and I never used hand creams because I didn't want the scent to affect the taste of my pastries. "Emma, your hands look terrible," Alexis would say whenever she visited. "You look like a construction worker, not a business owner. You should take better care of yourself." Despite Alexis's criticism, the business did well. Within 3 years, I had saved enough to open a second location, and then a third. By the time Alexis graduated from high school, I was the owner of a successful chain of 5 bakeries across the city. I still worked hands-on in the main kitchen most days. I loved feeling the dough between my fingers, knowing exactly when it had been kneaded enough by the texture alone. No machine could replace that knowledge. It was around this time that my parents approached me about Alexis's future. They came to my apartment one evening after I had closed the bakery. "Emma, we need to talk about your sister," my mom said, sitting stiffly on my couch. "She wants to go to college. She's always dreamed of getting a higher education." I nodded. "That's great, she's smart. She should definitely go." My parents exchanged glances. "The thing is," my mom continued hesitantly, "we can't afford it. Your father's pension isn't much, and with medical bills." I knew what was coming. "You want me to help pay for it?" They nodded, looking relieved that I had understood without them having to ask directly. I thought about it. I had been planning to open another bakery location that year. The money I had saved would either go toward that or toward Alexis's education. At that moment, I made a decision I would later regret. "Of course I'll help," I said, "family comes first." My parents looked so grateful that I felt a warm glow of satisfaction. I had only managed to take some one-year college courses a few years back, nothing fancy. I thought it would be nice for at least one person in our family to have a proper degree. So, Alexis went to college. I paid for her tuition, her books, her housing, and her meal plan. I even gave her some spending money each month so she wouldn't have to work while studying. I wanted her to focus on her education. 4 years later, Alexis graduated with a degree in business administration. I closed all my bakeries for the day and attended her graduation ceremony, beaming with pride as she walked across the stage in her cap and gown. "What are your plans now?" I asked her at the celebration dinner afterward. Alexis shrugged. "I'm thinking of taking a job at Sarah's boutique. You know, my friend from high school? She needs someone to work the register." I almost choked on my drink. "A retail job? But you have a business degree. You could work in management or finance." "Yeah, but those jobs are so stressful," she replied, picking at her salad. "At Sarah's, the hours are good, and it's super easy. I don't have to think too hard." I looked at my parents, expecting them to be as concerned as I was, but they just smiled indulgently at Alexis. "As long as you're happy, honey," my mom said, patting her hand. I couldn't believe it. I had spent tens of thousands of dollars on her education, and she was choosing a job that any high school graduate could do. But I bit my tongue. It was her life, after all. A few months later, my parents called me to another family meeting. This time, it was about housing. "Alexis needs her own place," my dad explained. "She can't keep living with us forever." I thought she was saving for an apartment, I said. My mom shook her head. On her salary? She can barely afford her car payment. So there it was again. They needed money, and I was the only one who had any. My grandmother contributed some savings, my parents added what little they had, and it all went toward a down payment on a condo for Alexis. And guess who was expected to make the monthly mortgage payments? Me, of course. I agreed, thinking it would be temporary. Surely, Alexis would eventually find a better paying job that matched her education level, and then she could take over the payments herself. But 3 years passed, and nothing changed. Alexis was still working at the boutique, and I was still paying her mortgage every month. Looking back, I should have put my foot down then. But I didn't. I kept telling myself that's what family does, we help each other. So I continued writing the checks, month after month, watching my own dreams of expansion get pushed further and further away. It was early March when Alexis called me. I was at the main bakery, elbow deep in sourdough, when my phone rang. "Hey, Emma, my birthday's coming up in 2 weeks," she said without even saying hello first. "I'm turning 26. "I know," I replied, tucking the phone between my ear and shoulder as I continued kneading. "I was thinking of making you a special cake." "That would be nice," she said, but her tone suggested she had something else in mind. "But what I really want is that new designer handbag. The one I showed you online last month, remember?" I remembered, it cost nearly $800. "That's pretty expensive, Alexis." "Well, you're doing so well with your bakeries," she said. "And it's not like you spend money on yourself. Your car is like 5 years old." I looked down at my flour-covered apron and red, chapped hands. She had a point about me not spending much on myself, but still. "Fine," I sighed, "I'll get you the bag." "Thanks, you're the best," her voice perked up immediately. "Can you send it by courier? Like, as soon as possible? I want to use it before my party." And with that, she hung up. I finished the dough, washed my hands, and ordered the handbag online. But despite what Alexis had asked, I decided I would give it to her in person. I also planned to make a 3-tier cake for her party and bring a selection of pastries. It would be good advertising for the bakery if nothing else. 3 days before Alexis's birthday, I was finalizing the cake design when my phone rang again. It was my mother. "Emma, we need to talk," she said, her voice serious. "It's about Alexis's party." "What about it?" "I've got the cake all planned out, it's going to be amazing." There was a pause on the line. "That's the thing, dear. You don't need to bring a cake, or come to the party at all." I stopped what I was doing. "What?" My mother sighed. "Don't get upset. It's just that Alexis's fiance's family will be there. They're coming to meet her family. And I'm not family." I couldn't keep the hurt from my voice. "No, of course you are." My mother sounded irritated now. "You're misunderstanding. It's just, well, they're all very educated people. Lawyers, professors, doctors. They all have advanced degrees." I felt a cold weight settle in my stomach, and I don't. "You'd feel uncomfortable, Emma. What would you talk about with them? And you know how you look after work. Your hands all red, no makeup, that practical haircut." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So I'm an embarrassment?" "Don't be dramatic," my mother snapped. "Alexis just wants to make a good impression. You wouldn't want to ruin that for her, would you?" I was speechless. After everything I'd done for my sister, paying for her education, her mortgage, and now an expensive birthday gift, she was ashamed of me? "Emma, are you still there?" "Yes," I managed to say, "I understand." "Don't worry about it." Then I hung up. I sat at my desk for a long time, the cake design forgotten. My own sister was embarrassed by me. My parents thought I wasn't good enough to meet her fiance's family. After all these years of supporting them, this was how they saw me, as the uneducated sister with the working-class job, not fit for polite company. That night, I made a decision. I wouldn't give Alexis the handbag. And the cake and pastries I'd planned to make? I'd donate them to the local orphanage instead. The day before Alexis's birthday, I stayed late at the bakery. I made the 3-tier cake as planned, but instead of Alexis's name, I decorated it with a simple "enjoy." I also prepared dozens of cupcakes, cookies, and pastries. When everything was ready, I called a local children's home and arranged for them to pick everything up the next morning. On Alexis's birthday, I didn't go to work. I called in sick for the first time in years and spent the day at home. I wore my comfiest pajamas, watched movies I'd been meaning to see for months, and even opened a bottle of wine. It felt strange to have a day to myself with nothing to do, no one to take care of. Around 10 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Alexis. "Where's my birthday present? You said you ordered it." "No, thank you for the cake. No, sorry you couldn't come." Just a demand for her gift. I stared at the message, wine glass in hand, and felt something inside me snap. I opened my banking app and navigated to the automatic payments section. There it was, Alexis Miller Mortgage, $1,750, monthly. My finger hovered over the cancel button for just a moment before I pressed it. A confirmation message appeared. "Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring payment?" I clicked yes without hesitation. Then I turned off my phone, finished my wine, and went to bed. For the first time in years, I slept soundly, without worrying about bakery orders or family obligations. Days passed, and I heard nothing from my family. They hadn't realized yet that I'd stopped the mortgage payments. I found myself thinking about what I would do with the extra money each month. For so long, my own needs and wants had come last. Maybe it was time to change that. I was considering renovating my apartment when my Aunt Marge called. "Emma, darling, I missed you at Alexis's party. Your mom said you had some awful flu and were bedridden. I wanted to check how you're feeling now." "I wasn't sick," I said slowly. "I wasn't invited." There was a long pause. "I'm coming over," Aunt Marge declared, "right now. And you can tell me everything." 2 hours later, Aunt Marge was sitting in my living room, a glass of wine in her hand, listening as I poured out the whole story. "That girl has lost her mind," Aunt Marge said when I finished. "And your parents are enabling her. You know, those people she was so worried about impressing? They were lovely. Regular folks, well-dressed but not snobby at all. No one was asking about degrees or jobs." I felt a little better hearing that. Really? Really, though Alexis kept mentioning her college degree every 5 minutes. Aunt Marge rolled her eyes. The only awkward one was her. As she was leaving, Aunt Marge hugged me tight. "You need a break, Emma. You've been working too hard for too long. Taking care of everyone but yourself." After she left, I sat thinking about what she'd said, a break. When was the last time I'd taken a real vacation? I couldn't remember. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I booked a vacation. I found a last-minute deal to Hawaii, packed a suitcase, and arranged for my assistant manager to handle the bakeries while I was gone. Within 48 hours of my conversation with Aunt Marge, I was on a plane headed for Maui. The hotel was right on the beach, with a view of the ocean from my balcony. On my first morning, I woke up to the sound of waves crashing against the shore. I had a leisurely breakfast at the hotel restaurant, then spent the day lying on the beach, reading a book that had been on my nightstand for months. No dough to knead, no orders to fill, no family demands to meet. Just me, the sun, and the sound of the ocean. That evening, as I was sipping a cocktail on my balcony, my phone rang. It was Alexis. For a moment, I considered not answering, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello?" "Emma," Alexis's voice was shrill. "What the hell?" "The bank just called me. They said my mortgage payment is overdue." "Yes," I said calmly, "I canceled the automatic payments." "You what?" she shrieked. "Why would you do that?" "Because I'm done paying for your life, Alexis. I paid for your education, I paid for your mortgage for years, and how do you thank me? By excluding me from your birthday party because you're embarrassed by me." There was a moment of silence on the line. "Okay, look, I'm sorry about the party. But you can't just stop paying my mortgage. What am I supposed to do? Pay it yourself? Get a better job that actually uses that degree I paid for? Ask your fiance for help? I don't know, Alexis, but it's not my problem anymore. You're so vindictive, she yelled. How am I supposed to come up with $1,750 by tomorrow? You're being selfish. I laughed at the irony. I'm selfish? After everything I've done for you? Goodbye, Alexis. Good luck with your mortgage. I hung up and blocked her number. Then, for good measure, I blocked my parents' numbers too. No more guilt trips, no more demands. For once, I was putting myself first. The rest of my vacation was blissful. I went snorkeling, took a helicopter tour of the island, and ate at fancy restaurants. I bought new clothes, got a professional massage, and even had my first manicure in years. My hands still showed signs of years of hard work, but the fresh polish made them look a little more glamorous. All too soon, my week in paradise was over, and I returned home. As I was unpacking, my phone rang. It was Aunt Marge again. Welcome back, traveler. How was Hawaii? Amazing, I said, smiling at the memory. I should have done it years ago. Well, you deserve it, she paused. There's been some drama while you were gone. Your parents have been going around to relatives asking for money. They say it's for Alexis's mortgage. What's going on, Emma? I was the one paying for Alexis' mortgage, I confirmed, for years. I also paid for her entire college education. But after they excluded me from her birthday party, I decided I was done being their personal ATM. What? Aunt Marge sounded shocked. But your parents told everyone they were paying for her college, and Alexis has been telling people she pays her own mortgage. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Not only had my sister and parents excluded me from the family gathering, but they'd also been lying to everyone about my financial support. I'm sorry, Emma, Aunt Marge continued. I had no idea they were lying to everyone. Well, I want justice done. I'm making sure the whole family knows the truth now. It's not your fault, I assured her, you didn't know. Well, I'm making sure everyone knows the truth now, she said firmly. The whole family should know what you've done and how they've treated you. The day after I got back, my doorbell rang insistently. I looked through the peephole and saw my parents and Alexis standing there, all looking grim. Emma, open up, we need to talk, my mother called through the door. I didn't move. Emma, please, my father's voice was softer. We can find the money for this month's payment, but you need to start paying again after that. If you don't, the bank will take Alexis's apartment. That's not my problem anymore, I called back through the door. I've been paying for years while you all lied about it. What are you talking about? My mother demanded. Aunt Marge told me everything. How you told people you were paying for Alexis's college when it was actually me. How Alexis has been pretending she pays her own mortgage. There was a stunned silence. You've been using me as a walking ATM, I continued. And then you had the nerve to exclude me from family gatherings because I'm not good enough for you. Well, I'm done. You can figure out your own financial problems from now on. You can't do this to us, Alexis wailed. Where am I supposed to live? That's not my concern anymore. And if you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police. After a few more protests, they finally left. I watched from my window as they got into their car and drove away. Instead of feeling guilty or sad, I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I was truly free. In the weeks that followed, I focused on my bakeries. With the money I was saving each month, I could finally afford to open that 6th location I'd been planning for years. I hired new staff, expanded my menu, and even took a weekend business course to improve my management skills. Thanksgiving came around, and I spent it at Aunt Marge's house with several other relatives who had taken my side in the family drama. It was the most relaxed holiday I'd had in years. No walking on eggshells around Alexis, no fielding subtle demands for money from my parents. You look good, Emma, my cousin Jen said during dinner. There's something different about you. I smiled. I'm just happy. And I was. For the first time in a long time, I was living my life for myself, not for my ungrateful family. 6 months after Thanksgiving, I was in the middle of finalizing plans for my 6th bakery location when Aunt Marge called. "Emma, you won't believe what happened," she said without preamble. "Alexis and her fiance broke up." I set down my pen. "Really? What happened?" "Well, according to my sources, Aunt Marge loved her family gossip. Alexis tried to get him to pay her mortgage. When he refused, she got nasty with him." I couldn't help but laugh. "She never changes, does she?" "That's not all," Aunt Marge continued. "He found out that you used to pay her mortgage, and that she was ashamed of you. That she didn't even invite you to her birthday party." "How'd he find that out?" "I might have mentioned it to his mother at church," Aunt Marge said, not sounding the least bit sorry. "Anyway, he told Alexis that she should have been grateful to you, not embarrassed. That she should have been proud to have a sister who built a successful business from nothing." He broke off the engagement right there. I didn't know how to feel about that. On one hand, I was glad someone had finally called Alexis out on her behavior. On the other hand, I didn't want to be the reason for her unhappiness. "There's more," Aunt Marge said. "She lost the apartment. The bank foreclosed on it. She's living with your parents now." I sat back in my chair. "I'm sorry to hear that." And I was, in a way. Despite everything, Alexis was still my sister. "Don't be," Aunt Marge said firmly. "She made her choices. Now she's living with the consequences." After we hung up, I thought about Alexis and my parents. I hadn't spoken to any of them in months. Sometimes I missed them, especially during holidays or when something good happened at work and I had no one to share it with. But then I'd remember how they'd treated me, how they'd lied to everyone about who was really supporting Alexis, and the hurt would come rushing back. Life went on. The new bakery location opened to rave reviews. I hired a talented pastry chef to help with the increased workload, which gave me more time to focus on the business side of things. I even started dating a customer who came in every morning for coffee and a croissant. Nothing serious, but it was nice to have someone to talk to, someone who appreciated me for who I was. Then, about 2 months after Aunt Marge's call about Alexis's breakup, I received a text message that made my stomach drop. "Hey Emma, it's Alexis. My birthday's coming up next week. I'd really like to see you. Mom and Dad miss you too. Can we talk? I want to apologize for everything." I stared at the message for a long time. My first instinct was to ignore it, but something held me back from hitting delete. Maybe she really was sorry. Maybe my parents had realized how wrong they'd been. But then I thought about all the times I'd given Alexis the benefit of the doubt. All the times I'd put her needs above my own. Where had that gotten me? Excluded from family gatherings, used for my money, and lied about behind my back. And now that she had no fiance, no apartment, and probably needed money again, suddenly she wanted to apologize? The timing was too convenient. I typed out a quick response. "I'm sorry, but I can't make it, I have plans." Then I blocked her number again. Perhaps it was harsh, but I had learned my lesson. My family was only interested in me when they needed something. They weren't sorry for how they'd treated me, they were sorry that their meal ticket had disappeared. The bakery chain continued to thrive. I invested in new equipment, hired more staff, and even started exploring the possibility of franchising. My days were busy but fulfilling, filled with the smell of fresh bread and the satisfaction of building something with my own hands. Occasionally, I'd hear updates about my family from Aunt Marge or other relatives, but I kept my distance. Alexis had found another low-stress job at a department store. My parents were struggling a bit financially but getting by. Life went on for all of us, just separately. Sometimes, late at night, I'd wonder if I'd made the right choice in cutting them off completely. Family was family, after all. But then I'd remember that true family supports each other, respects each other, and doesn't take advantage of each other's generosity. What I had with my parents and Alexis wasn't family, It was a one-sided relationship where I gave and they took. I found my real family in other places, in Aunt Marge and the relatives who stood by me, in my employees who worked hard and shared my passion for baking, in friends who liked me for me, not for what I could give them. Last month, I finalized plans for my 7th bakery location. As I signed the lease, I couldn't help but think about how far I'd come from that first small bakery I bought from Mrs. Jenkins. If I had continued supporting Alexis, would I have been able to expand this far? Probably not. I would have been stuck, never quite able to reach my potential because someone else was always draining my resources. My life now isn't perfect. I still work long hours. My hands still get red and rough from hot water and flour. I still keep my hair short for practicality's sake. But I'm happy with who I am and what I built. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe someday I'll be ready to reconnect with my parents and sister. Maybe they'll change, truly understand how their actions hurt me, and we can build a healthier relationship. But for now, I'm focused on living my life on my terms. No more sacrificing my dreams for people who don't appreciate it. No more putting my needs last. No more being ashamed of who I am and what I do.